Welcome back into another Moss Football Friday. And after all this talk and all this debate and all this whining and crying, guess what? We know who's in and we know who's not. And there's a couple of things going on in the sports world right now. Chapel Bill, all kinds of fun stuff this week. Boys, how in the hell are you guys? TJ, I want to start with you because you were at the scene of a hell of a heist on the Sunday spread last Sunday. Los Angeles.
Holy smokes, that was such a great atmosphere. I mean, the Bills Mafia came out in force. It was probably out 2-1 easily, 2-1 over the Rams fans. And we all left disappointed actually. So, but it was a fantastic, phenomenal performance by one Josh Allen.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Buffalo Bills here because they're on the tap for this weekend in the big games. Mac, how the hell are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing all right. TJ, that was one interesting game for you to kind of witness, kind of put my ASU U of A game to shame, but man, that seemed like a lot of fun. So
it's because two teams showed up in Los Angeles. Only one team showed up in Tucson. That's why. Obviously, the biggest story, guys, and we'll get to some nuts and bolts here. We've got some other fun stuff show-wise. The face-off is going down. TJ's got a big lead already on Vegas Mac, but a little bit of a split from Wednesday. It's Friday the 13th, guys. We are 1 week away from something as football fans we have been clamoring for in the college football world. But of course, it didn't come without some whining and crying. And we're hearing, well, what benefit does it give you to schedule tough teams? I'm going to hit pause on that right away. If you're an Alabama fan and you're talking about scheduling tough teams and how you shouldn't because it doesn't really benefit you, take off your Tide-colored glasses. And Mac, I'm going to let you run with this because you were on this. You sniffed this out right away. The reason Alabama's not in this format and in this first edition of the college football playoff is not because they didn't schedule tough enough outside of their conference. Yes, you can, TJ, you reference it all the time, the SEC mandated cupcake game. Alabama, you're not in there because as double-digit favorites, you lost to Vanderbilt, and as double-digit favorites, you got your ass handed to you in Norman. Mac, you were all over it all year.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't feel as though, there's some teams, we hold to that higher standard, and Alabama's one of them. And this wasn't a regular Alabama team. When you watch them, like I said it a couple of times, I thought they could have lost a couple of other games this year. Because of who they are, and how well they play, they actually pulled a couple of these games out. But I wasn't impressed with them through most of the year. I'm not disappointed or even surprised that they didn't get in. I think the committee actually got this correct. I think the best teams are in there. There's other things that we can talk about, but I think as far as the teams, I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, and TJ, the horrible irony in it is last year, Bama was the team that squeezed a team that was whining out of the playoff. And this year, Bama is the team that gets squeezed out of the playoff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like they got their quote comeuppance, right? But look, it can go both ways here. Is Alabama better than any of those teams, any of the 12? Maybe. You could probably make a case for it. Are they better than SMU? They didn't play. I don't know.
Sean McDonough was all over SMU on the broadcast. He was really, really pushing for SMU to get in.
Yeah, and he would have looked like a fool if the game would have kept going on the trajectory it was going when he was saying that stuff and they were down 21-0. He would they're like, SM what? But are they better than Clemson? I don't know. I didn't get a chance to see it. So it's a double-edged sword there. Look, it doesn't matter if you have 12 teams or 4 teams or 68 teams. Somebody's going to get screwed and somebody's going to whine about it. And that's just, it's what you're going to have. You signed up for it. When you signed for the 12 or you signed for the 68 in the basketball, you signed up for teams to get screwed and you signed up for whining. And that's just going to be how it is. And this time it is kind of funny though, how the SEC is kind of paying for everybody else to party here. that's kind of unfortunate. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, and the committee told us from day one it was who and how you lost would matter. And by putting SMU in, I think they backed that statement clearly. This was the first time we got to see what was their importance level with conference championship games. Because if you don't put SMU in because they lost to Clemson, you're telling us right there that conference championship games don't really matter. And then what we're doing is we're opening Pandora's box for the teams to go, hey, we're cool if we don't go in. Now, there's a couple of teams that massively benefited, I think, from not being there. One being Tennessee, two being Indiana. And then there's teams that benefited from getting there and weren't really hurt in Penn State. And a team that's been hands down, no doubt about it, the best team in college football all year, that some people can go, they kind of got screwed in Oregon's draw in the bracket. And we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it here in a little bit. But Miami, second team out, Alabama, first team out. Let's start with the initial reactions here, guys. I love these matchups, with the exception of one of them. I think it's going to be just an absolute just trash game, but we'll see what happens when it all comes out. But if you look at these, I mean, Ohio State, Tennessee, SMU, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame, there's a lot of supplementary storylines. This is exactly what they wanted, Tej. This is exactly what they wanted to build. We're all talking about it. We've been talking about it all year. Conference championship games were important. There was relevant games in November. I got to give my hat that's not on to the committee. Take it off. You did the job. You did it right. Can't wait to see it next year. But let's talk about this year. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we didn't know exactly how it was going to come down. We hear about it all year, and it's the first year that this is happening. All the cliches, if you will. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, Alabama has a gripe, but yeah, some of these first round matchups look pretty good. We are going to see very quickly who the frauds are and who the legit teams are. We're going to see it really quick. And
Max fraud alert is going off, TJ.
Yeah, for sure. So that's going to be one of the things. And then you know what we're going to hear after that, right? Well, they shouldn't have been in because Alabama should have been. Just go play your bowl game and don't take 3 losses next year. How's that?
Exactly. You know, Mac, and the funny thing is Alabama gets a chance to kind of prove that point, if you will, because they get Michigan in the Johnny and Susie's Southwest reliable quest to find buried treasure bowl or whatever the hell it is. They're going to get their chance to go, hey, we should have been there. And the team that's going to be deadline targeted would be Clemson. But it's not Clemson because Clemson won their conference championship. SMU, I think, can carry the flag. And again, I'm bringing this up to you, Mac, is because SMU was one of the teams that you really felt all year should have been there. And I mean, I remember the text you sent as soon as you saw it. Like, they did what they had to do, and they did what they should have done.
Yeah, I mean, like Tony, we were talking the other last week, you know, how they demolished Pitt. Like, that wasn't even a game, and Pitt had a pretty good year up until then, and how impressed you were watching SMU. I mean, this is a team that has been really, really consistent all year long. And, you know, again, yeah, the big blinking lights, fraud. I mean, we all know it. We've been talking about that. One of those teams from Pennsylvania. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think what we did see in that game against Clemson is that SMU can handle being in that situation. Yeah, they didn't win, but listen, they were down. There's a lot of teams in that situation, and we've all seen it, that, you know, that game was over. And for SMU, it wasn't over. As a matter of fact, you know, they had every chance they could have even won that game. So, you know, hats off to them. So that team is, again, we said it a couple weeks ago. If there was probably one team, as we were kind of breaking down the brackets, that you probably didn't want to see, whether it was at home or on the road, it was SMU. And Penn State can't have a real good feeling about this one at all.
No, I don't think they should. They should at all. I mean, and they're trying to drum up everything they can there. They're doing a whiteout game. Doesn't really have the same effect, when it's in the daytime and everything. But let's start at the top of the bracket, fellas. Clemson, the 12 seed, they get Texas in the first round. That game is at Texas. Lines are obviously going to change by the time we get to next Friday's show. But as of this week, about 11 point underdogs for Clemson. Over under set at 51.5 in this game. This is an interesting one for me because Clemson can ride the momentum train. Obviously, the winner of this goes to Arizona State. Now, before we go into this game, I've heard a lot of this here locally in the Valley. Obviously, people are jacked. ASU's turnaround season. Kenny Dillingham should, no doubt about it, be the coach of the year. But there's been some people locally here that are like, really, they're going to send ASU all the way to the Peach Bowl against a team like Clemson or Texas? Did you really think they were going to give you a pseudo home game in the Fiesta Bowl? There's no effing way they were going to do that. But I think Arizona State has a really good shot against either one of these teams. Texas, last week they had their opportunities to beat Georgia. They had more than their opportunities, especially with Carson Beck going out. And they weren't able to get the job done. And we brought it up last week, and I think there's something to say about this. Is Texas a better team with Arch Manning at quarterback? You didn't really see a ton of Arch in the SEC title game. And Clemson, and TJ, you brought this up last week. Cade Klubnik's had a really good year. I mean, he's throwing the ball well. He's spinning it well. He looked good the other night. This is a hell of an undertaking for Clemson. And like Dabo said, he's just excited to meet Matthew McConaughey. All right. Matt, what do you think initially on this one?
I mean, I think for me, some of the shine has come off of Texas the last couple of weeks. I mean, they're not looking as good as they were, kind of in the middle of the season. And whether yours is not 100% or whatnot, but still, that offense is not clicking, and this is not the first time that we've seen that. So again, you give Dabo a little bit of time, he's going to have his team ready. Again, Clemson was one of those teams a couple of weeks ago that was really making a push to be in the playoff without having to win their conference championship. This is not an easy game. This is not going to be an easy game for Texas. I mean, we could probably say that about just about any of these. I mean, again, we're talking about 12 really good teams. But for me, Texas, a little bit of the shine has come off. I still think they should be able to win this game, but I'm a little bit worried, especially offensively. Texas doesn't seem to be clicking.
I completely agree with you, and I think the fact that Clemson is playing on the road is going to be. We're going to see if these first round home games are going to make a huge difference in what happens and what happens in the future here. Because if this game was a neutral site game, I would almost lean toward Clemson here based on what we've seen recently.
I think we lost him temporarily there. You there, Teach?
Mike, one of the things that I worry about also is
cool to see
is the time off. How is the time off going to affect some of these teams? Especially, I mean, ASU is going to get the winner of this one, but ASU has been playing so well. Having 2 or 3 weeks off, how is that going to affect them? As far as you talk about momentum, but football is very much a rhythm sport. They've been playing week after week after week, and all of a sudden now having those. I mean, we've all seen it when the bowl season comes, and teams haven't played for 3 or 4 weeks. You get kind of a funny first or second quarter, and then it takes a while for teams to kind of get their footing, and so it's a little bit interesting. With having all this time off, how that's going to affect them, even a week or so, it'll be interesting to see how it affects some of these teams.
Yeah, and TJ cut out a little bit, but I liked where you were going with that. Like neutral site game, you would probably kind of lean towards Clemson here. And to kind of echo Mac's point, as I throw it back to you, Teach, like we saw that with the local professional team here, and the Cardinals were red hot going into their bye. It comes out of the bye, and they haven't looked like the same football team. And that caused them to lose the command position in the NFC West. Like, are you? And we obviously have another week before we have to make any picks on these games, TJ. But I think that is one of the deciding factors for anybody that's looking for a betting angle here. This is the second of the 3 games next Saturday, the 21st, so a week from tomorrow. It's a 2:00 kickoff for us, so 3:00 in Texas, whatever the hell that is time-wise. Again, if this was a night game, if this was a neutral site game, I think you're really onto something there. And that's one of the angles I don't think anybody's really playing in is it is at Texas.
Yeah, for sure. And that's going to be huge. You're going to have 100,000, burnt orange Longhorn crazies ready to go. And that does make a difference here. That being said, Clemson, they're probably not going to be very intimidated going into Texas for sure. And Cade's played great. The last, the South Carolina game was meh, but for the most part, he's played pretty good. So this is and Swinney's got this team playing. They're reaching their peak at the right time, I think. So this is a dangerous spot for Texas, and it's going to be really. I'm interested to see if Sark pulls the trigger with Arch or sticks with Quinn. I'm really interested to see that. Because, like you said, if this team is better with Arch, and we're in the playoff now, so there's no more next week's, what are you going to do? Like, when's that hook come if Texas gets off to a slow start?
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, obviously, we'll dive a little more deeper into the specific matchups, but let's follow the bracket down to the 8-9 matchup. Ohio State at home at the Shoe, where it is maybe going to be a felony to plant a flag. It's midfield, as we found out on Wednesday this week. Some representative in Ohio that wants to make that. How much more soft can you friggin' be? Tennessee, and this Tennessee team, and I'm gonna say this now, and again, we're gonna go more into this. The winner of this obviously goes to the Rose Bowl and takes on Dan Lanning's Oregon Ducks there. But jumping off the page, seeing how they played against Michigan, they still have time off just like everybody else does, but not as much as Oregon, Arizona State, Boise, and Georgia do. I see a glaring mismatch here, and I think this Tennessee defensive line, Mac, is going to eat the Bucks for lunch. The flip side is what can Nico Iamaleava do in this environment, but at the same time, we've talked about this all year. Nico, this is a big test. This is his first big road test. Now he's playing Alabama. And it hasn't phased the kid at all. And to me, that's the glaring mismatch in this is the Tennessee defensive line, I think, is going to eat big time in this game.
So 2 things, Mike. I think the first thing is one thing that you've mentioned quite a bit about this Ohio State team, slow starts. Mm-hmm. They get off to slow starts. I mean, it's well documented now. Now, with that being said, and I'm not the first person to say this, I'm stealing this. I don't remember who said it. What happens if Ohio State gets off to a slow start in this game again? Is having a home game going to be a benefit to them, or all of a sudden are these fans going to be a little upset? We know what happened the last time they were on that field. Okay, Wolverines took it to them. Okay, now all of a sudden you get down 7-0, 10-0 to this team, to Tennessee. What's that environment like? It's great to have a home game. I get it, but you know what? We also know that these fans in Ohio, even though the whole flag thing, but these fans in Ohio, they don't like losing, and they cannot be happy with the last performance that this team put on that field. So could a home field advantage become a disadvantage?
I'm showing this so you can see the Ohio State fans' patience level with Ryan Day. It's about, I think, TJ, right. It's almost a disadvantage for Ohio State to be playing this game at home. And I say that because kind of like what Mac just said and what you brought up with Clemson and Texas, TJ, if Ohio State starts slow in this game, that is going to be one cranky building of 100,000 Buckeye fans.
Oh, without question, they'll want Day's scalp at halftime. I mean, like it's the Ohio State. Well, 2 things. Ohio State fans are kind of like Vancouver Canucks fans. They're completely just off the charts, delusional sometimes, and think and they're so far up their own rear ends that they can't decipher or delineate any realistic expectations of anybody else because they are just so myopic. It's all Ohio State, Buckeye. I think Tennessee, I know it's early. I think Tennessee goes in there and whoops their butts. I do not see how I don't see how Ohio State recovers from the debacle from last week. And now this whole flag planning thing and like just it's almost like they're screaming to just rip the page off and go start over.
Mac, you'll get this reference from a wrestling standpoint. SAWFT. Soft is exactly what that is. Let's follow the bracket down. Happy Valley, we alluded to that earlier. SMU, the 11 seed. Penn State, the 6 seed. Penn State didn't really get hurt from that game in the Big Ten title game. And I'm going to be the first to say this because I've been all over this team all year. Mm-hmm. Penn State was able to put up points against a very, very good Oregon defense. My question is, why in the hell did it take that long for you guys to open the playbook to hang with the best team in the country? Now they get an SMU team that just likes to beat the shit out of you on both sides of the football. This to me is probably the second most interesting game. This will be the first game Saturday morning, so the early kickoff in Happy Valley, where if you want to go to the game, you're paying $1,900 to stay at a low-level freaking average hotel in Happy Valley. But, Mac, this is an interesting one. And this Penn State team, just much like with the team we just talked about in Ohio State, is squarely being targeted and locked in on right now because there's a number in front of the team they're playing, and it's a big game.
Yeah. Again, it's very interesting. I mean, we have been all over Penn State. They can't win the big game, this, that, and the other thing. And like I said, I agree with you. I thought they played very, very well against, without a doubt, probably the best team in the country. I was shocked how well they moved the ball. Like you said, offensively, I was like, I kept watching. I'm like you said, where has this been all year? It's like all of a sudden they just like opened up the playbook and just said, all right, we're just going to let it fly.
Right.
If this is the Penn State team that we're going to get, I think they're going to give SMU a lot of trouble. This is a team. I know it's kind of funny, but if you look, this is a team that can get to the championship if they're going to play this kind of offense and be this consistent. But I don't know if they can. I don't know. I'm just saying. I
fell out of my chair. Sorry.
No.
The hell did you just say?
I know, but if they can, it's a big if.
It's a huge if. It's a huge if. I mean, they actually statistically outgained Oregon. They almost put up 300 rushing yards against Oregon. Like I would have thought that was unheard of. I was very impressed with how the offense performed, except for that interception. That kind of seemed to be the almost the difference. I mean, with it being just a 1-score game. But
I thought it was Ohio. I thought Ohio State just let them. I thought they called Ohio State so they could get another crack at Oregon. I thought it was really the Ohio State kids.
This is what Mac's drinking right now to think Penn State can win a national title.
Bob Ross Kool-Aid. But I hate to be that guy, but now he's 3-19 against top 10 teams.
Like
so
we
now
said,
Franklin's 3-19.
Like we said, one time it's a fluke, 2 times a little bit of a habit, 18, 19 times we know what we know here. Let's go. And obviously the winner of that one's going to come out to Arizona here, Fiesta Bowl against Boise State, where Boise State has made some memories in that game. That's going to be a fun one. Indiana and Notre Dame. This is the Friday night game, which will take place right after Florida and Tulane play their bowl game, which I'm not going to go into naming of bowl games. It's the Tulane and Florida Bowl. Game day, doing a special Friday edition from South Bend. You've got the in-state rivals here, if you will. I mean, I know it's not a huge football rivalry, obviously, but within that state of Indiana, you're a Notre Dame fan, you're an Indiana fan, and that's about it. So, when you look at this, and again, Sugar Bowl awaits Georgia. Who the hell knows what Georgia's going to be like? The Carson Beck situation, which I'm going to say this also because I got a lot of crap for this on our social channels last week at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, even Blue Sky, and 7 other things that keep coming up because people are panicking for no reason. I don't think Carson Beck's a good quarterback. I haven't thought he was a good quarterback all year. He hasn't stepped up when they've needed him to. I know he got hurt, and we never want to see anybody get hurt, but I don't know if George has got enough time to get everybody up to speed. And this is a big issue, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out between now and next Friday's show, guys, because that game will kick off right after we finish our Football Friday show with Indiana Notre Dame. I think this is the game for me. That's holy shit. I can't wait to see this, Mac.
I've never seen it. I have very rarely have seen a game change so much when a new quarterback came in. That game completely flipped. I mean, it was incredible how that game flipped, and you just wonder why that is. I mean, a lot of times you'll see, a new quarterback, a young quarterback comes in, unproven, and everyone kind of like picks up their game, because they need to protect him and whatnot. And I don't know if that was the deal or whatnot, but man, that game completely flipped when Beck went out. That was crazy. But I know we're talking about Notre Dame, Indiana. Here, same thing. To me, Indiana and SMU are like kind of like that same team. They're so well balanced. They do things on both sides of the field, offensively and defensively. They've just been so good all year. Notre Dame, it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, they haven't had a great schedule. They haven't had really, really tough games. But you know what? Notre Dame's really played good except for that 1 week. That's it. Other than that, they've done exactly what they're supposed to do. And just is going into Indiana, going into Notre Dame going to be too much for Indiana? I don't think so. I mean, they played Michigan. They played Ohio State. They're right there. I'm honestly, of these 4 games, I really think this is going to be, the closest of the 4 games. I think this is going to be a really, really tight game.
Yeah, and TJ, like, I don't have the stat in front of me, but this is like the first time in like decades that somebody is broadcasting a home game at Notre Dame Stadium that's not named NBC. Mm-hmm. Also wanted to ask you before you touch on this game, are you deferring payments on the cup that you're drinking out of right now? Asking
no,
for a friend.
I do own this cup outright, but I will say that I was not rooting for the Dodgers at the time, so I believe that takes me off the hook here.
One of the many ways we get sidetracked. What's your first? When you saw this matchup, what was
look
your
at this bad boy?
No, get your damn cup out of here. Stay focused. It's like leading a zoo.
My first thought was the only thing we're missing in this round robin is Purdue. The second thing that I thought was
they have a football team.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You might want to ask UNLV and see if they know anybody who can get out there. Here's why I'm excited about this game. Right now, I know it's really early, but right now the weather looks like 26 degrees and snow. That's why I'm looking forward to this.
TV. Great to watch on TV.
Yes. So once again, one of the things that we wanted was home games at sites for certain teams in the playoff. We're going to get one, and we're going to get we have the potential to get 3 cold weather games. Let's see what happens. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we kind of mentioned it, Gunnar Stockton or Carson Beck awaits the winner of this game. And I really think that Indiana's chomping at the bit to get that second. And this is something that you brought up last week, Mac. Indiana's chomping at the bit to get that second opportunity on the big stage to go, we are a good football team. I think this thing's going to be a battle.
Yeah. And if it's, I don't think anybody would have an advantage if it becomes a snow game, one of those. In fact, I even think that would probably help Indiana out more than anything else. It's not like Notre Dame is an offensive juggernaut, So, it'll be very, very interesting if the weather ends up playing a factor in that game. But like you said, I think of the 4, that's the game. I see that one really being tight.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we'll dive deeper into the matchups. The other thing, Teach, from the betting standpoint, this is the one line since the original lines came out that really hasn't moved a ton. Mm-hmm. I've seen it get up to, I saw it at 9 at one point earlier this week. Last I checked before we jumped on here, it was about 7.5, which I think was the opening line. Not a lot of movement here. Nobody really knows which way to go. And as we know from a betting standpoint, TJ, that hook right here could become very valuable to a lot of people.
100%. That's it. That's a huge 7.5 right there. So I'm going to be watching this over the next few days to see what happens.
All right, pull out a crystal ball here for a second, boys, and we'll go around the table here. I'll get us started. Potential second round matchups that are really interesting to see. There you go. Crystal ball on cue. That's how we do it around here. For me, it's going to be Boise State potentially against SMU. I think SMU can go into Happy Valley and beat Penn State. If I've been where I was on Penn State all year, I'm not changing my fact now, especially since where the hell did you pull the offense out last weekend? Why haven't you done it all year? I think SMU's got more than a legitimate chance to go in there. Setting up a SMU Boise State game in the Fiesta Bowl would be freaking incredible. That's the one that jumps off the page to me. Mac, what's the potential second round matchup that would pique your interest?
Texas ASU would really be a really, really big matchup. And like you said, ASU has been playing really, really good. Kenny wants to plant a flag, another big flag. Well, you go and beat Texas, you're planting a pretty big flag. Let's just put it that way. That would be ASU's already done so much this year, and he's got that team in a really good mindset. But I'm telling you, a win over a program like Texas, man, oh man, that is really, really going to put that program into a different stratosphere.
And speaking of planting flags, since apparently we need to make laws about that now, soft asses, ASU is carrying the whole flag for the entire Big 12. Is there pressure? Mm-hmm. Hell no, that team feels zero pressure. Mm-hmm. Xavier Guillory was amazing in the Big 12 championship game. Everybody's concern was the loss of Jordan Tyson. Teej, what's the one that piques your interest of potentials in the second round?
Potentially Georgia and Notre Dame. You have a team in Georgia that did what they had to do. And yeah, it's unfortunate to see what happened to Carson Beck. Luckily they get a week off and they can see, or several days off and see if he can come back. But this Notre Dame team's kind of intriguing. We had them on the wrong end of head of the class in the beginning of the season when they got punked by Northern Illinois. But then they reeled off some pretty impressive wins since then. I mean, they did play Miami and that was Miami, Ohio. They beat Army, so that was good. And they beat USC on the road. That was okay.
I'm sensing a theme.
But it's going to be I just think it would be a fun matchup because Notre Dame is like the Dallas Cowboys of college football in a way, and so let's see what happens when you go play a team like Georgia, and let's see if you can hold your own water there.
That's interesting. You said that, TJ. Which team has won a championship most recently, the Cowboys or Notre Dame? I don't really know, but.
Pull out your abacus and your desktop computer. That'll tell you.
Okay, so listen, we kind of, I don't know if we did it on purpose, but we all avoided the matchup.
Oh God.
Okay, we all avoided it. So let's put it out there. Ohio State, Oregon.
I think we avoided.
Bring it on.
I think we avoided it because I don't think it's going to happen.
No, and I'm gonna skip ahead a second here because I'm gonna put you guys on the spot in a second. I will full disclosure. I said what I said, and we're gonna get into these matchups a little more in depth next week because it'll be the night of Notre Dame and Indiana. I jumped on Tennessee at a plus 225 money line. I think Tennessee's defensive line, like I said, is going to eat. I think they're able to take pressure off of Nico Iamaleava with Dylan Sampson, who's been fantastic all year. I honestly can see Tennessee going in there and kicking the living crap at Ohio. I think Ohio State is so fractured, so broken. Go ahead, everybody in Columbus, replay this, send it to Ryan Day, tell him I'm Lou Holtz so he can look for me and Lou at the same time. I think Tennessee's going to kick the living crap out of Ohio State. There's your early, and I jumped on it, as you guys well know. I'm going to put you guys on the spot here, and I'll start with mine. As we have a bracket right now, and we'll lock these in officially next week because we can make some bets on these. That's the greatest thing about legalized sports betting. California, get with the program here, but national championship game matchup, now that we see the brackets, I'm calling Oregon against Notre Dame. Vegas Mac. Gears turning.
Right.
turning.
I'm going to say this just because it would put my household in peril.
Oh, God. Well, yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
Where am I going? ASU.
It's an ASU Boise State dream that's never going to happen.
Well, you know,
It would put your house in peril. We might have to broadcast live from
Oh my
during that
gosh.
championship game
Oh
in
my
your
gosh.
house.
that would be something else. Let me tell you, I don't. I'd be sleeping in this office.
No, good thing you have a week to nail down your actual pick. TJ,
right.
Not going to hold you to this. National championship early prediction here. We'll lock these in next week. Take yourself off mute, knucklehead.
So obviously I didn't have anything important to say there, right? Because that was my mulligan. I'm going to go Oregon and Georgia.
Ooh.
I think that's the matchup that, I mean, honestly, everybody wants to see. But again, the intrigue here is it Gunnar Stockton? Is it Carson Beck? That makes a big difference in this game, maybe, because we know Georgia's calling card this year has been Michael Williams in that absolute destroyer defense that they have. That's why they're here.
Yeah.
They've been absolutely unreal. So a lot to unpack in the next week. Let's flip and give the little guys some credit here and some attention. Not that many people watch these anymore. We are championing, we are planting a flag even in Ohio for the college football NIT. I think would be incredible, a great way to fix some of these other bowl games. Get your garbage off the screen. Favorite bowl game. I'm very intrigued to watch South Carolina. When I found out they were playing Illinois, I lost all intrigue. I think South Carolina beats the hell out of them. The bowl game that I'm really looking for here, Duke and Ole Miss, January 2nd. It's the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl from Jacksonville, Florida. You are looking live. It's an interesting matchup for me because Malik Murphy has entered the transfer portal for Duke. Duke's got a real tough and stingy defense, and we know Ole Miss puts up video game numbers. Now, when we get to January 2nd, who the hell's going to be on either one of these teams still playing? That remains to be seen. That's the one bowl matchup outside of the playoff that jumps out to me. What do you got, Mac?
I'm going with a double header.
Oh, Jesus.
Action. Here we go. Double header action. We got the baseball games, right? We got the Pinstripe Bowl. We got BC and Nebraska playing at Yankee Stadium. And then, of course, we got the Yukon Huskies playing against who's that guy? Who's their coach? The Carolina guy again?
Chapel Bill.
Belichick. Right? I mean, he's going to be in it right there in his backyard playing in the Wasabi Bowl at Fenway Park. That's a double header for you right there.
Nothing like two basketball schools playing football in a baseball stadium, right? What could
Absolutely.
possibly go wrong? The irony that North Carolina, Belichick's new team, is playing in Boston of all places in their bowl game. I wonder if the hoodie will show up for that one. TJ, I know you've got a bowl game that you're looking for.
Well, now that you say that, it's North Texas and Texas State.
Why are you looking at that game, I wonder?
Because the over-under is 68.5. I'm actually, and we're trying to figure out if we can gas up the buggy for this, but that Syracuse-Washington State game is very appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a fun one. I think we'll see. Well, we'll put a couple things to rest here. Number one, how bad was the Pac-2? And number two, was Syracuse, like, what kind of team were they really? I mean, we know that they beat Miami, but it seems like kind of like Clemson, Syracuse is kind of peaking right now, which is unfortunate because they were out of everything. But yeah, that Syracuse offense is kind of fun.
That's a football game in a baseball stadium that will actually be fun to watch. And the Holiday Bowl is always an incredible game. San Diego, you can't make a better scene. I mean, one of these days the NFL should put a team in San Diego because it would be a great thing, fun to watch, right? I mean, I can do your job too, Roger Goodell. Now, let's not crap on the Pac-2 though, because 2 of their teams won conferences. Oh, wait. They're not in the conference anymore because we had to destroy that thing this year. Yeah, anything else before we transition to the National Football League, fellas? Open mailbag here because I know a couple of you have things to say.
I would just go ahead, T.
I don't know if you want to get into this now, but I have a really big problem this weekend. A huge problem.
Jesus.
And I don't know what to do.
Is your doctor close on the weekend?
Because Army and Navy are going at it this weekend. Two teams that run the ball like nobody's business. And 8 of this game has gone 8-1-1 under in the last 10. And I don't know what to do.
This one's always a dogfight, and you see the number in this game, and you always go, "There's no way." Even with they run, they're going under that, and it seems like every damn year you watch the Army Navy game. What are we doing in the last 5 minutes? No, you dope. What are you doing? 39 last year was the last number I saw.
Yeah, and last year the number was 28.5, and it went under.
I know.
So
trust me, I know.
It's incredible. But this is a good Army team. It's a good Navy team too, but it's a really good Army team. A team that won their conference championship. A team that until about 3 or 4 weeks ago had an outside shot at the playoff, whether or not they deserve to be there. But it's a team that's the cool thing about Army and Navy is there are 2 teams that are completely not affected by the massive money that's going around. In fact, they probably benefit because their tier of competition gets a little bit worse as they get poached by the bigger schools. So, but just everything about this game is so fun to watch. So, I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do about my problem though.
So you drug us down that road for the Army Navy conundrum without making a damn thing. I'm probably going to go under on this one.
What? Just because past performance. But the 7.5 for Navy is actually looking really intriguing right now.
TJ just said actively, publicly, he likes an under. What the hell is wrong with you, dude?
I don't know. My medicine's gone. I don't know what happened.
Words I never thought I'd hear. What do you got, Mac, before we transition to the NFL?
I was going to say, if we really want to find the answer, maybe we should talk to somebody who's been streaking lately. Do we know anybody who's been streaking lately? That guy.
You guys read the police report?
Yeah. Hey,
other streaking.
Hey, listen, every once in a while we got to toot our own horns, and your horn should be tooted. You're on quite a little bit of a roll there, Mr. Mike.
Generational heater, I think, is what some of the critics and pundits have said. I mean, listen, and we talk about this all the time. Like everybody wants to chirp when you miss a pick, but nobody says a damn thing. We have one person specifically who follows this show that loves the talk when we miss picks, but never says a damn thing when we make picks. Now, full disclosure here, let's go back before we go forward. So a couple of weeks ago on the show, we did our best bet segment, and I had a Saturday and Sunday best bet. And I said that I really liked Syracuse plus 10.5 against Miami because it's a really tough place to play. Obviously now, that's probably the main reason why Miami's not in the college football playoff. Syracuse wins the damn game out. I love Fran Brown. Like, if you're a young kid wanting to play at the next level, you want to play for Fran Brown. So they do that. The other one was Oregon to cover 18.5, I think is what I got it in. I said I was going to bet that Saturday. Sunday, We had I think it was the Eagles-Ravens game, if I remember correctly. And I liked Philly, the Angry Birds, now that we'll talk about here in a second. I liked Philly on the money line, and I liked your very own Steelers on the money line. And I was going to bet that separate. So I was going to bet Saturday separate, Sunday separate. Said it right here on the show. If you don't believe me, go back a couple weeks. I didn't bet it. Usually when we do our best bet segment, I do it like literally right here on the show to make sure that I don't forget to do it. And I didn't hit it. I've been lucky this year, had some good runs on some touchdown scores. And then last week, my best bet was Oregon -3.5 and the Rams on the money line. And you guys looked at me like I had 7 friggin' heads. Well, we happened to hit that. And then on Sunday, to top it off, in the most dramatic fashion possible in the morning, Jonnu Smith catches a touchdown to walk off the Dolphins-Jets game that was like literally eating paint and jamming nails through your eyes. And then we go to the afternoon, and I'm sitting on the Hawks money line, and on the Sunday spread, I picked the Rams +3.5. So, yeah, we did all right. But as a show last week, we had a huge week. I think we were like 18-5. And listen, we're not handicappers. We're not selling our picks. We will never do that ever. And there's plenty of people that don't do that give you good information for free. TJ, you and I have talked about this a million times over. Everybody gets hot, and everybody goes through their cold streaks. You saw on Monday night, my friend, our Monday night nerd, was hot, 3-0 last week. This Monday, he went 0-3. I mean, it happens. Generational heater, yeah, I love it. It's been fun, especially for the people that just only want to talk when you lose. I wasn't going to bring it up. My head's large enough already. I don't need any overinflation here, but thank you, Mac. It feels, you know what?
There you go.
Wait till you get to my best bets. I already gave you one of my best bets, Tennessee on the money line. I think Tennessee's going to kick the living crap out of Ohio State. I just do. We'll get into it next week. Let's talk about the National Football League, guys. And speaking of emptying the mailbag, TJ, do you have any more adjectives to describe how Kansas City wins football games?
It is literally.
Now's where he needs to be muted.
It is.
That's about the sound, and they won another game.
Literally beyond comprehension. I have absolutely no words. None. I can't. I'm going through my mind right now to try and think about how they're going to win their next game, and I cannot think of anything more ridiculous than a third-string kicker kicking a field goal off an upright to win a game by the exact same score that they won the previous unbelievably ridiculous ending at home game when whatever. It's beyond a joke at this point. It's beyond a joke.
I stopped listening when Matt goes through his best bet closet unloading and picking random autographed baseballs with picks on like there's a certain point where I can't follow his train of thought. It completely misses my station, but it was almost like he predicted it last week too. That was the even funnier thing. I think neither one of us could send the text to each other faster. We didn't bother with you because free Johnny Walker and stuff. I'm pretty sure you weren't coherent after the Bills-Rams game, but we almost sent the same text to each other at the same time. Like, can you imagine what Tony's saying right now?
It was really funny. Oh, I couldn't stop laughing.
And
you could see it. It's like a bad movie. It's like a bad movie. You could see it. Like with 5 or 6 minutes left, you just knew. Here we go. You know what's going to happen, right? Oh, they're going to score. All of a sudden, the whole thing just kind of gets set into motion. You know, it was so funny.
It was 100% comical and depressing, and just all of the things that would just like drive you right into the front of a train all at once.
Don't do that. And you probably felt like driving into the front of a train after going to the Bills-Rams game.
And all I can, and please make it stop. I hope it stops this weekend. Please make it stop.
Is this the
because if Jameis Winston pulls some sort of rabbit out of his hat, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. I'm just gonna have to put everything away and just go, okay, no more. I'm done.
We got the Chiefs talk out of the way. Let's try and steer this train back onto one track at least. Bills Lions has started our previews this weekend. Buffalo coming off of the emotional, crazy, dumbass decision on the quarterback sneak, and they lose the game to the Rams. They're still keeping pace with Kansas City, and all they have to do is pull even with them because of the tiebreaker. And the Detroit Lions, a team that you two picked to go to the Super Bowl, and a lot of people did as well. It's not like you guys, read the damn crystal ball like Tony has sitting right next to him. But this is an interesting one because now Buffalo has to rally back. They can't really afford to fall back anymore. They can maybe with the Chiefs schedule, but this is more of a test, I think, for the Lions than it is for the Bills in this game. I mean, yes, we need to see the Bills bounce back, but I'm more interested to see what the Lions do in this situation. We know the one thing Buffalo does not do very well is cover the middle of the field. Maybe Sam Laporta pops up on some good plays this weekend. Mac, I'm going to start with you here. Bills and Lions, what do you think?
It's hard for me to go against the Lions at all. It just seems like, they have stepped up to every opportunity that they have. It kind of feels like it's one of those games that, I always feel when teams have these big winning streaks, like a loss is good every once in a while. And I think this is a situation where if there's a good loss, this would be it against the Bills. And like you said, the Bills can't afford to start falling too far behind because there's teams that aren't all that far away from them. So I think this is a perfect week for the Bills to actually go in and pull a victory off of the Lions.
Yeah, and TJ, like when you look at it from a Bills standpoint, we talked about this last week. Their schedule going forward, very favorable, but these are two teams that can't afford to lose any ground or slip because you've got the infighting Eagles chasing the Lions, and you've got the Steelers that are right on the Bills at 10-3 and 10-3. The difference right now, I believe, is the conference record between the two. Might even be down to common opponents, but neither one of these teams, TJ, has any wiggle room here.
No, not at all. I mean, it was unfortunate that the Bills had took the loss last week because my concern going into that game, I mean, it was a trap game with a lot of travel, and but you win that game, and that makes this game not less important per se, but it's not a must win. I think it's a must win for the Bills. I think they need to go into Detroit and win this game. They've scored 30 points or more in 7 straight games. I mean, Josh Allen was absolutely incredible last week. He willed that team, granted the cruddy call at the end, but he willed that team to have a chance to win at the end when the defense couldn't make a stop to save their lives. So, yeah, but it's like you said, it's also a test for the Lions because here's this team that was the sexy pick for the Super Bowl that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. Now you've beaten the teams that have been in front of you so far. Now you're going to get a playoff team here and a possible Super Bowl contender. Let's see what you can do. And you're going to get them at home. So let's see what you can do.
Well, and the NFL, I think, did us a massive favor here before we make our picks, guys. When you look at the schedule for this week, you got all these games starting at, for us out here on this side of the country, the 10 a.m., 11 a.m. early window like usual. And then there are 0 games that start at the 1:05 West Coast time window. Everything else is a 1:25 on the West Coast, 4:25 on the East Coast. So we get a good little gap here to really focus in on these games. Some of those games, Patriots, Cardinals, not really doesn't do anything. There's a game, the Colts and Broncos, that has a lot of impact in the AFC playoff race, but I like the way they set it up. I don't know where this line's going to go off by kickoff time. It's stayed under that magic number of 3 points right now. As I'm looking at it, Detroit at 2.5-point favorite, over under at 54.5. I think the desperation from the Bills is palpable because they're getting chased from the Steelers. I don't really think there's an advantage whether you play currently the Chargers or the Broncos. I think you actually would rather see the Chargers than the Broncos. being perfectly honest with you. Either way, they're going to Buffalo or Pittsburgh. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna go with the Lions -2.5 to cover here. I think they're in that kind of groove, and the pressure. I think the best thing that's happened for the Lions is the pressure from a team we're about to talk about, the Eagles from behind. So I'm going to go with Detroit -2.5. Mac, who you got? TJ, who do you got?
I've got the Bills in this one. I think they come back strong. I think they're going to take care of business. I think they're a little bit embarrassed on how their defense looked last week. I mean, they were just carved like a Thanksgiving turkey last week. And like I don't know what the hell was going on, why nobody could cover Puka Nacua. That was embarrassing for them. So I think there's a little chip on their shoulder, and you got a team in the Lions that's better than the Rams. You got a team that's getting a lot of airplay right now, a lot of bandwagoners. So I think the Bills want to go in there and make a statement. Like you said, schedule is very favorable. You got Pats, Jets, Pats. I think we can get 11 guys from the corner to beat the Jets. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bills. I think this is the start of something, another streak for them.
Would it take 11 guys from the corner to beat the Jets? Go ahead, Mac.
Like I said, I think this is a good opportunity for the Bills. I think they go in. I think it's one of those spots in the Lions season where I think they have a little bit of a pause. They've played well. They haven't played great the last couple of weeks. I just think it's a good spot where it's a pause for them. The Bills come in, like you said, the Bills need this game. I think the Bills win this game. But again, this is a fun matchup. This is definitely a game that you want to tune in no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to another one that I think everybody's going to want to tune into. And there's some infighting going on in Philadelphia. And you know what? I can't say that I'm surprised. I can't necessarily say that it hurts my feelings. What in the hell is going on with that team? Like, Brian Baldinger, I think, said it best. It was on one of the Bay Area radio stations about Deebo Samuel's comments that he's not struggling, he's not getting the ball. And then, of course, the X community notes jump on and go, you lead the team in drops. But the Niners are not a factor here. The Niners know what's in front of them. I mean, you got to win out or you're screwed. But the Eagles, like, dude, look at where you're at. And now we're going to start this kind of nonsense. Apparently there's a rift, not a rift, between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Like, dude, get your house in order, Nick. Like, because this is the wrong time to be going down this path. Especially, and I got to give this team credit. Speaking of what we just talked about, Buffalo's got Pittsburgh on their heels. Philadelphia, who we thought was going to push Detroit, now has Minnesota up on their heels as well. There's no wiggle room there. And Minnesota's offense, as I've said multiple times in the power pyramid, I didn't know if I trusted them. Last week, yeah, we're good. I got you. Addison has 3 tutties, and Justin Jefferson has 2. Like, Philadelphia can't afford to have this crap going on. This game is incredible, Mac, and I'm obviously going to start with you here. Steelers and Eagles, a lot on the line for 2 of the top teams in their respective conferences.
You know, Mike, there's a line from a movie that reminds me right now of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know you'll appreciate this. Attitude reflects leadership.
The John Brown Hahn parts.
You know, I'm just saying, and I've been on the Steelers. You know that. I love them. My son gives me a hard time about my not so much love affair with Mike Tomlin most of the time. But the bottom line is this. He's right more times than he's wrong. He was right with this Russell Wilson. The way that they've played the last couple of weeks has been, let's be honest. They look like a playoff team. They not only look like a playoff team, TJ, Mike, this Pittsburgh Steelers look like a team that could win the AFC. Now, that being said, they've got 3 games in like 10 days. These next 3 games, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Kansas City, all between now and Christmas. I mean, so if you're going to get a win, I mean, I think this is the week you got to try to get the win, because the other two are going to be tough, because they're going to be really, really close as far as the number of days you're going to have off. So I really think Pittsburgh really, really needs this win. But with that being said, this is a Steelers team that could represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think it's far-fetched one bit whatsoever, TJ. Do you agree with that statement?
I don't think it's far-fetched at all. I think this defense is elite. And I think Russ is, like, I had written Russ off. I was like, trade him to the Raiders and have him right out into the Henderson sunset as that team goes 2-15. And like, he but can't. Go ahead, Mac.
TJ, I was going to say, I don't know if you guys saw it. The throw that he made to Pat Freiermuth in that game was as good. I mean, I was watching that play, and he made that cut, and I mean, he fired a strike. I mean, that's as good a throw as that I've seen all year from any quarterback. It was really that good. And the second thing, I'll let you go again, TJ. I was going to say, notice how the Steelers coach is taking care of his business with his wide receiver, whether his hamstring is hurt or not. You talk a little too much, all of a sudden, you get a couple DNPs. Maybe they're a coach decision or not.
Worry me too much. You talk to. Go ahead, TJ. Nobody wants to hear that shit.
No, I'm just I don't think that's and right now, like you said, Mike, would you rather get the Chargers or would you rather get the Broncos? I mean, you get the Chargers. I mean, the bad news is you got to probably have to go on the road the next week. But the good news is, you might have a better path here. So this wouldn't surprise me at all if they were able to take care of their business and make a little run here. I really liked. I mean, it was the Browns and Jameis and all, but I really liked what they did last week. And the Eagles, like, dude, you got to be able to get out of your own way here. And a team will sink faster from within than all the crap that goes on around them, right? And so, just play the damn game and let's get on with this and go take care of your business.
Loose lips sink ships. I am going to save my pick because it's part of my best bet here. Mac, do you have a pick or are you passing?
Pick, pass.
I'm going to pass.
You just gave the highlight video of a lot of the NFL's entire season, the bottom third, pick, pass. DJ, do you have a pick on this one?
Yep, I'm taking the Steelers. I'm taking the Steelers +5. I think I think wrong team favorite here.
All right, and then let's go to the night game, which has massive playoff implications in the NFC. It is the Green Bay Packers in Seattle to take on the Seahawks, whose defense just continues and continues and continues to eat. Interesting thing is this could also be a first-round playoff matchup if things hold true as well. And, I look at this game and I still see a level of disrespect for what the Seahawks are doing. And I don't think it comes from what the Seahawks are doing on defense. I think it's a lot of people not trusting what they're capable of on offense. Kenny Walker, and if you talk to players around the league or you hear people that talk to players on a regular basis around the league, is one of the hardest open field tackles in all of the NFL. Well, he doesn't play last week, and Zach Charbonnet destroys the Cardinals. They get that win. They're in the driver's seat in that crazy-ass NFC West, and they play a Packer team that I haven't shied away from this year and saying I don't think they're as good as everybody else says they are. And what does Vegas do this week? Well, if you looked early enough in the week, the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football are home dogs, and I don't understand it, Mac.
This is like a great game to show. Okay, show me what you are. Show me what you are. I mean, we've said it.
Which
we
team?
haven't been, both. That's what I'm saying.
Both.
It's kind of like the fraud button is there. It's going to go to one of these teams. Which one is it going to be?
Can we get him a light over his head?
I watched Green Bay. I'm like, yeah, they could be good. I'm not sure. I watched Seattle. I'm like, let's. 2 of the last 3 games have been against the Cardinals, so let's take that into consideration as well. But listen, Mike, you are on this. Cardinals, you were on the Seahawks team from the very, very beginning. From the very beginning, from your go back and watch the video of the preview. You were on this team from the beginning.
Video. I don't need to watch it.
I'm just saying, but I'm this game. Besides the Pittsburgh Philly game, I'm glad this is a night game because this is a game I really want to watch. I want to see which team is for real.
And don't quote me on this because I don't have it directly in front of me. Was this a Sunday night flex? Does anybody know that? I don't remember because a lot of the time when they do it, it's a couple weeks out, which is the expected protocol for it. But I think this game might have been a Sunday night flex. Either way, I'm glad it's in Sunday Night Football because I'm freaking moving this weekend. And by the time we get damn settled, it's going to be in front of the TV. TJ, I can't wait for this game, honestly. 2 teams that in my football fandom are usually not teams that you really enjoy watching. You can't stand from a fan perspective. But from this perspective, I think this honestly, sneakily could be the best game of the weekend.
I think you're right. I think this is this has a feeling of that type of game. It's going to depend what kind of pizza rolls guy we get. Are we going to get Geno Smith, who is this great quarterback when they win, or are we just going to get pizza roll pickmaster here? And I'm not saying anything, but I've got a couple of great memories of Seattle, Green Bay games of the past. The one where Matt Hasselbeck says we're going to take the ball and we're going to score, and we know how that happened. And then the game in, I think it was the 2014 title game, when I'm sitting on Packers plus 8.5 or 6.5. I think it was 6.5. And
sounds about right.
They had, and the guy misses the onside kick or whatever, and somehow I still win that ticket when Seattle goes to the Super Bowl. But I digress. This is, like you said, show us what you're made of here. You got 2 teams, probably playoff teams. Both of them could be, but who's the legit contender and who's the fraud? You're right. Mike's been on this team the entire season, and I've been a non-believer, and I'm starting to believe. So yeah, this is going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it on Sunday night.
Come on over to the Ducks.
I'm going to give you your flowers on that. That was a great call at the beginning, for sure.
I just, they hired Mike McDonald for a reason. They had the talent on the defensive side. It got a little awry last year, and that was probably the main reason. And I'll first and foremost, like, watching this team offensively, they really, really can get you frustrated because it's pass from Ryan Grubb. And you've got guys like Walker and Charbonnet, Thunder and Lightning. We talk about Sonic and Knuckles in Detroit with Montgomery and Gibbs. I'm not saying that Walker and Charbonnet are Montgomery and Gibbs, but that's a really damn good tandem. We know the thing with Seattle is the offensive line issues. Same thing for me on the flip side with Jordan Love. And I'm glad you said it the way you did, Mac. It's show us what you're made of. I need to see Jordan Love in a massive game make the throws that he needs to make. He was non-existent the entire first half at Detroit a couple of weeks ago. And this is a game that both of these teams have to have. And when you look at it from Seattle's standpoint, they have Minnesota coming to town the following week. But that's the thing. Minnesota goes to Seattle. Green Bay is going to Seattle. Then after that, Seattle's got the Bears. And what is shaping up to look like it could be the very last game of the season, again, the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football, in that final game against the Rams, which could be for the division title, because what do we know about the NFC West? Not a damn thing. And talk to me in week 18 when we know who the 2 teams that can win it are. That's where we're at with the West. So let's transition forward here. Go to the often imitated, never duplicated Mike Arana Show Best Bet segment. And because this thing just, you know what, Mac, it's always your floor first. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching at home, please put your seat backs and tray tables in the upright position and keep your hands and arms inside the vehicle. Vegas Mac, the floor is yours.
Well, there's one huge NFL game that we didn't talk about. The 6-7 Indianapolis Colts at the – I can't do it. Sorry. Bob's Big Bowl. That's right. We got 4 for you, Mike, right here. 4 for you. FCS playoffs. Number 8, Idaho. Going to number 1, Montana State. TJ, you're going to love this. It's minus 13.5. You got to take the number 1 team. Minus the 13.5. Go Montana State. Number 2.
Is that the temperature?
No. Incarnate Word, Mike. Number 2. I mean, they're going up against number 3, South Dakota State. TJ, you know what I'm going? I'm going over. It's 54.5, baby. We're going over on that one, but we're not done because these are the quarterfinals. We got 2 more. UC Davis, number 5, at number 4, South Dakota. TJ, this one I'm going with the under 55.5 on this one, and we're going to wrap it up. Number 7, Mercer at North Dakota State. I'm taking North Dakota State minus the 18.5, baby. Bob's Big Bowl times 4. Mike, that's all I got.
All right. Well, UC Davis now flying the Mountain West flag. Mercer, we know they're battle tested because they played friggin' Alabama.
Incarnate Word.
I can't even spell Incarnate Word.
Incarnate Word from San Antonio, Texas. I happened to drive through their campus a few years ago.
They are the Cardinals, by the way, in case you wanted to know.
Yes.
That makes a difference.
They beat Nevada. Yeah, it was awesome.
You know what? Then they're the Cardinals. Then I'm all over it. TJ, you have the dubious distinction of following him on Best Bets.
Man, and that's like, oh, geez. That's like trying to figure out how I'm going to describe the Chiefs when they win the next game 19-17 on a kick that hits the upright, the mascot, the beer vendor, and then the guy in the front row.
You know what they haven't done yet?
What?
The drop kick for 2 points.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
1917.
Doug Flutie.
1917.
Doug Flutie.
In addition to taking the over in the Bills game because I can and I exist and I breathe, I absolutely love Tampa Bay this weekend. And
2 weeks in a row.
And people go, well, it's not the Raiders that they're playing and they're not at home. They have to travel all the way across the country. And I understand that. I don't think they played their best football last week, though. I think they played down to their competition. And the Raiders were still in that game until O'Connell throws that pick in the red zone. And then O'Connell gets injured. And then then John Ritter comes in and the whole thing goes in the toilet. But I think that was a perfect example of how the Bucs have played. And they're going to play a Charger team that's pissed off that they lost the way they did. They're playing a Charger team that's in a playoff dogfight right now. And I think this is going to bring the best out of Bakey and the boys. So I'm taking the Bucs, and I'm going to take them on the money line this weekend over the Chargers.
I like that. I do. Speaking of money lines here, get your house in order, Jersey Shore reject. Because all I see right now in the Philadelphia situation is T.O. in his driveway doing sit-ups. That's what this brings me back to. And I know Pittsburgh's got their issues, but again, I think, Mac, you said it best. Mike Tomlin handles his house, whether your hamstring hurts or you're being a punk ass. Either way, We're going to handle our business. This obviously is a big rivalry within the state of Pennsylvania. You're an Eagles fan or you're a Steelers fan. There's nothing in between, literally nothing, because Penn State doesn't fill the void in between. I'm taking the Steelers on the money line against a fractured locker room, which we know, guys. We talked about this just a few minutes ago. I don't want the points. I'm not taking the points. Maybe it's generational heater kind of vibe, whatever. I have the Steelers on the money line. We just talked about my other team on the money line. I do not believe Jordan Love yet, I'm not saying ever, can make the throws in a big game when they count. This is a massive game for both of these teams, and that building is going to be ear-piercing loud. And this Seahawks defense, if you want to talk about generational heaters, is on one on the defensive side of the ball. So I got Seahawks money line. I've got Steelers money line. Put them together. It's a plus 607. as we always say, play them straight, play them together. That's up to you. Final words, not that there really should be after a four-way Bob's Big Bowl that involved Incarnate Word and new Mountain West member UC Davis, but do you have any final words, Vegas Mac?
This is a fun time of the year to be watching football. I mean, it really is. I mean, now we're really kind of getting down to it. We're on the precipice of watching a great college football playoff. And this is going to be a lot of fun these next couple of weeks. I'm going to really enjoy it.
I can't wait to dive in deeper into those matchups next week. And again, right after we get off the air, Indiana, Notre Dame. It's going to be fantastic. Any last words, Teach?
If God loves us at all, he will bless the arm of Jameis Winston this weekend, and this will all end it will just end so nice. But I wonder if Taylor Swift likes Cleveland.
Like Cleveland from Family Guy or Cleveland, Ohio?
If she likes Cleveland
Ohio.
Cleveland
rocks.
Cleveland rocks when Jameis is there. TJ, Vegas Mac, the people behind the scenes. Next Friday, we're going to take you right into college football playoff weekend. You can follow us all week on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show everywhere, including Blue Sky and whatever the hell comes around the corner next. For these guys, we're out.